We're back. President Trump signed a new executive order entitling Buy America, Hire American, where he calls federal agencies to overhaul the HB-1 visa program. Meanwhile, Vice President Mike Pence gives a stern warning to North Korea. Also, Republicans avoided a big loss in Georgia by forcing a runoff in the Georgia House race. Democrat Jon Ossoff was supposed to reach 50%, but only reaching 48.3% of the votes. Here now to talk about these latest topics, we welcome back our professor at BMCC, J.C. Polanco, who's also our political analyst, is also the Retrovision media owner, Lee Bynes, who's both our political analysts, both of them in studio with us, always to break it down. Gentlemen, good to have you.
Hey, good morning.
Good. Let me first off talk about the new executive order. J.C., obviously a lot of concern about this new executive order. Your thoughts?
Listen, I think anytime we want to encourage agencies and employers to hire American and to buy American, it's a good thing, especially when we have millions of Americans that have focused their entire lives on preparing for careers in manufacturing. It is a good thing for them to have a job, but the reality is that we're losing a lot of these jobs through automation. And these visas that President Trump is focusing on are quite a big deal for those in the computer industry and those in the tech world. Many of those people that have trained for those jobs or college educated are losing those jobs to foreigners that are coming here, working for much less money and going back to their countries, leaving American workers with computer science degrees without jobs. So this is a good thing. It may be good for President Trump to bring some of those jobs that he's taken abroad back to the United States. And as Senator from Iowa said yesterday, put his money where his mouth is.
Yeah, one of the quotes that came.
Senator Ernst.
Yeah, this was a quote from President Trump says, with this action, we're sending a powerful signal to the world that we're going to protect our jobs and finally put America first.
Yeah, but you know what? I was picking up on some information from the business community, and they were saying that this was a bit on the short-sighted side because putting America first, let's face it, American workers, for good or bad, make a little bit more money than the rest of the world. And so a lot of those goods and services, especially products like steel, if American companies are forced to purchase materials inside the United States and they can't go out to get cheaper materials, that's going to raise the products and services going forth across the board. Secondly, as far as the $1 trillion infrastructure bill that the president wants to get through, this action will actually make that process even difficult and more expensive for roads to be built, schools, stations, whatever, because the cost of doing business is going to be just that much higher.
When we talk about, of course, the president, a lot of questions are coming up right now, what the future holds. And we knew that one of the things that we talk about was the race down in Georgia with Democrat Jon Ossoff, who actually just fell short. But even though he just fell short, a lot of people are saying that this is really going to be quite contentious going to the midterm elections, and this is nothing but a foretaste of what's going to see. Now, Ossoff did come short of reaching the threshold of 50% by only coming up by 48.3%, but still a message being sent.
But this was a seat that really raised eyebrows across the country. A lot of money was involved. A lot of money from Hollywood was involved. But this is a scary moment for Republicans. This is a seat that belonged to Newt Gingrich. This is a seat that belonged to Congressman Price, now Secretary of HHS. So this should be a Republican seat. You know, Congressman Price won it by over 20 points. And what's interesting about this seat is that Republicans should win big. However, the Republican fell short yesterday. She only got 19% of the vote. That means that the Democrats are activated, and that's concerning for many Republicans around the country. Once Democrats are activated and moderate Republicans aren't excited about the White House, they're going to either stay home and vote for the Democrat, and you saw that happen yesterday. So this was I disagree with my Republican counterparts. I think this was a big loss for us to see the Democrat walk out of there with 48.3% and us with 19% going into a runoff in a district that we should have won by over 20 points.
You know what, on the flip side of that, and it's amazing that we're going in opposite directions because as far as I'm concerned, that race didn't really demonstrate much of anything. The field was extremely wide. They had 11 candidates on the other side. He had nobody contesting him whatsoever. Secondly, he's a young guy with an unclear record up until now. And I think if the Democrats are going to try and get any mileage out of this, I think they should scrap that and and focus more on trying to get a message that a broader base of Democrats will buy, and get some fresh faces in there as far as leadership is concerned. Because if they don't do anything with that, the only thing the Democrats will find themselves doing is voting against Donald Trump, as
How do you get
opposed to
48.3% of the vote with so many candidates and tell me this is not a big? This is a huge deal. I mean, 48.3% with such a wide set of candidates running against you is huge. So I think that when you have three other Democrats running against you, I think this guy fell short because there were other Democrats that ran against him. Had those other Democrats coalesced around him, he would have won last night, and it would have sent a message to the White House that's very concerning from my side.
And one of the biggest hits that he took, though, was the fact that he lived outside of the district. Actually, he was living with his girlfriend outside the district. That was one of the things.
and the
that
fact that he was so heavily funded, like JC said, by outside money.
But then you also have on the other side, you have the president, who was very active in this election, telling people to get out to vote and really going to Twitter to take people.
The president is a liability. The president, I believe, is going to be a liability to anybody that he gets behind. Yep. I have a feeling at the end of Barack Obama's administration, as a lot of Democrats started distancing themselves
from
him. At the end,
that's different.
That's why.
That's
why this is such a big story, is because I think moving forward, going into the 2018 elections, by that time, a lot of Republicans would rather he not tweet it on their behalf as opposed to doing so.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, there's no question about it. Right now, President Trump is like kryptonite for these Congress people running and these candidates running. It's something remarkable. I haven't seen this ever. These first 100 days are so chaotic that you have moderates and Democrats and Republicans scratching their heads. So I think that you're going to see a lot of concern on my side of the aisle.
Yeah, I was at a conference yesterday and heard the words from the president saying that it was probably the best 100 days of any presidency that has been in recent history.
And we're saying this at the same time where the North Koreans are mentioning the possibility of thermonuclear war breaking out at any time. And this is what happens in the first 100 days. I'm not sure if I can handle the next.
Well,
this is a long way to go.
A long way to go, right? Well, let me talk about North Korea. Vice President Mike Pence giving a stern warning to North Korea, saying, quote, "We will defeat any attack and meet any use of conventional or nuclear weapons with an overwhelming and effective American response."
I like that pounding of the chest. You know, it makes me feel great and proud to be an American to know that we have the capabilities to destroy North Korea. This is something that President Obama said in an interview, by the way. Mm-hmm. He said, we can destroy North Korea. Now, sadly, we had President Clinton try to make deals with these people. We can't trust them. We had President Bush not do anything about it. President Obama did nothing about it. And now this is on President Trump's doorstep. You have a powerful North Korea that's consistently testing their weapons. And they have promised to have a intercontinental missile that will be able to deliver a nuclear bomb to the continental United States. That is the reality that Trump walks into, and that is the reality that President Obama warned President Trump about. So we're going to have to see them do something about this threat. Now, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be China. I don't know if it's going to be working with China on some trade deals, and hopefully that'll extend into some foreign relations with North Korea. But North Korea needs to be dealt with swiftly. And to see Vice President Pence at the DMZ zone saying these things, I think is a good thing.
Swiftly is probably the worst way you want to go at this point. We're talking about a diplomatic effort. We're talking about possibly using China to help in that diplomatic effort. We're at a point now where, last week I actually reported that Donald Trump, and this was supported by his White House secretary and his defense secretary, that we had an armada heading towards North Korea. And an armada is a force, a nuclear armed force with the Carl Vinson in the lead, with a bunch of destroyers ready to hit the North Korean peninsula, the Korean peninsula in the show of force. The problem with that is that, as it turned out, that fleet was not even headed towards Korea. That fleet was headed towards Australia for war games.
It hurts credibility.
And not only did it hurt his credibility, but he placed 28,000 U.S. Soldiers at risk because they're there. If Pyongyang decides to strike first, they've been threatened as far as they're concerned. They saw what happened in Afghanistan. They saw what happened in Syria. And they were thinking, we're next. And they've already put out a statement saying that they're prepared. They will strike first if they feel threatened if the United States come any closer.
I don't think so,
And without-
Lee. They're not
I
going to
know,
strike first. They'll
I
be
know,
wiped out of the
I
map.
know, but Seoul
Make a
is
big parking
Seoul
lot, put a
could
Best
have
Buy
them,
up there.
you know. But we're dealing with somebody who's been reported to be unstable, so we really don't know how he'll respond. This person will
He knows.
respond.
I
under
think
pressure.
President Xi of China will make sure he doesn't respond in any crazy way. And you know, we have an erratic leader in North Korea.
We have an erratic leader here in the United
Well,
States.
yes, but you know, I think we have so many different branches of government that dilutes the amount of power that our president has, as opposed to what's happening in North Korea, where it's an absolute authoritarian regime, and there really is nothing that could control that guy.
The unfortunate thing is that a lot of the positions that are underneath the president that would hold his feet to the fire have not been filled right now, and that's one of the reasons why the Defense Department, the State Department, and the White House have all been on the wrong page, and that's the reason why we're getting so many mixed messages. And those mixed messages going out to the rest of the international community is putting a lot of people on edge right now.
Sadly, President Obama did nothing about North Korea. That's the fact. And you know what? You're going to see the Iran nuclear deal go down the toilet soon, because Iran is also messing up. Listen, President Obama, at the end of the day, when you start looking at what President Trump is dealing with, and we have to be honest. You know, I'm honest here. President Trump could do a better job, but President Obama left us in a position where we don't know what's happening in North Korea. Syria was never taken care of, and we saw hundreds of thousands of people killed at the hands of Assad. Nothing happened there. And this Iran nuclear deal put Israel in peril. And you're going to see a lot of this happening and it's all on Trump's doorstep. The interesting thing is this: he should have known what's happening. He should have been prepared. And I expect President Trump to change things quickly.
Let me ask this before we go, because I
Sure.
got to get out of here real quick.
Sure.
How much is foreign policy going to play an effect in what we see in these midterm elections? Given the fact North Korea, all these other things, how much is foreign policy do you think is going to have an effect on the midterm elections?
Foreign policy, I don't think the regular voter is going to care about the details of the foreign policy. They just don't feel any source of credibility coming out of the White House regarding anything, including foreign
The
policy.
smart progressive or Democrat will be able to show the fact that the president is building up the military budget at the expense of the domestic policies and programs like Meals on Wheels and treatment for people having opiate problems and things like that. So I think a big case could be made for what's going on foreign policy-wise moving forward in the 2018 election.
All right, that's why we bring you guys in, so we can get the perspective on both sides. JC, Lee, thanks a lot. See you next week.
Good to be here.
All right, listen, taking a quick break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us. We're coming right back right after this.